Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing, Emily?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. Why don't you go ahead and take a seat?
I see.
It's good to see you today. Yes, we have Sadie back for you again.
Yeah.
It seemed like she was kind of helping out last time, so wanted to bring her back and still have the squish for you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So before we dive in, I know last time we talked about, we covered a lot of ground, a lot of bases last time.
Yeah.
And so this session, we're going to dive a little bit deeper, if that's okay with you. But before we get into all the seriousness, I have to know, so Taylor Swift's album just came out this week.
Yeah.
I know last time you mentioned that you were into music, that you were kind of a Swiftie.
Yeah.
And so I have to know, what were your thoughts?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I didn't love it, which is really weird because usually I've loved every single thing that she's ever released. And then this time around, I didn't like a single song on it.
Really?
And so now I'm like, this is uncharted territory because I've never not liked something she's done. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I've heard that from a lot of people, actually,
Yeah.
that they didn't really like this album and that it was kind of, like, very different than everything she's really done before.
Yeah.
So, do you think it's going to grow on you at all, or do you think, like, you just kind of got to accept it for what it is and move on?
Man, I don't know. I think maybe some of the songs might grow on me. But even then, like, it's definitely still my least favorite thing she's done.
Yeah.
So, hopefully the next thing she releases is going to be a bit better.
Yeah.
That was not it.
Totally. No, I'm with you on the same page. I agree. It was not my favorite either.
Yeah.
I know last time we met, we kind of talked about that was, like, something that you were looking forward to this week was the album.
Yeah.
So, because that kind of flopped, was there anything else that was, like, exciting or good about your week?
Yeah, I would say even though the album was a bit of a disappointment, I got to hang out with some friends.
Okay.
I invited some people over to my apartment.
Oh, that's
and
fun.
We did we got little treats and made it kind of a whole thing for a listening party. So even though the album itself was bad, like the event that I kind of put on was pretty fun, actually.
Okay, that's great. Well, I'm glad that you at least had that to, like, look forward to and share with your friends, and that was a good time. And, the last time we talked at our session, you said you were struggling a little bit with burnout and time management and even, like, making time for friends. And so that's really great to hear that you made time for friends this week and had, like, a fun activity that you were able to do. That's great.
Yeah, honestly, it was really relaxing. Like, it was, like, for a little bit I could just forget about all of my academic worries and just, like, have fun.
Good.
And so, yeah, I think that was really needed, honestly.
Nice break, a nice relief. Like,
yeah,
that's
for
great.
sure.
How did that feel when you were able to have that moment of, like, relief of a break?
It felt really good. Like, I even felt it in my body, kind of
Really?
Just, like, I felt myself, I wasn't as tense, like, I was finally able to kind of relax, and, like, I went to bed that night, and I felt, like, very, happy.
Whoa, okay,
and, like,
great.
Just, like, okay, everything's alright.
Yeah.
So, that was a nice feeling, for sure.
Is that different than a typical experience for you? So you mentioned that you slept well, or at least that you went to bed happy, right? Is that kind of outside the norm for you? Do you not typically fall asleep feeling that way?
Yeah, I would say most nights I stay up studying.
Okay.
And doing homework and trying to catch up on lectures and notes, and so honestly I usually just fall asleep studying, which is not great, and it'll be at like 3 a.m. or something.
Okay.
And so yeah, I'd say I'm usually pretty stressed whenever I like fall asleep. It's almost like my body is just like, okay, we're going to sleep now.
Okay, so just like crashing out almost, like you're just shutting down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So difference then between you went to sleep happy, kind of at your own pace, versus a complete just exhaustion in your body falling asleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that you had that experience. How did you feel the next day? Like, did you feel overwhelmed that you weren't studying that night, or what was that like for you?
I was able to get my work done ahead of time, so luckily it wasn't I didn't feel too stressed, but I was like, it was like I was so used to falling asleep studying and doing homework. It was almost like, oh, I need to like be doing something.
Sure.
You know, when it comes to academics, even though everything was already done, it was just like, it's just like my default of being like, okay,
Yeah.
I need to work on the next thing
Yeah.
for my classes.
So would you say that that's like a feeling of guilt maybe, or is there a different feeling that you would say would be there?
I would say honestly, yeah, like I feel a little like, oh, I didn't work on something the previous
Sure.
night, and so I need to like double down the next day and like work on something else, you
Okay.
know.
Where do you think, and it's okay if you don't know right off the bat, but where do you think that feeling comes from, that you always have to be working, that you always have to be doing something?
I don't know. I've just kind of always been like that, I guess. Like I always got good grades in school. You know, it was just always, it came very natural to me, and so I was always in like honors classes,
Okay.
and even in like elementary school I was in like the advanced standing
Sure,
classes.
sure.
So it's just always been kind of how I do things.
Okay. So you said you've always been like that. Can
Yeah.
you think of like an age that started, the need to be doing things, or is that just as long as you can remember?
Honestly, probably in like elementary school,
Elementary school?
when
Okay.
people, when I got kind of told that I was, you know, reading at a higher level or doing things at a higher level, it was like, oh, like, I don't know, it just kind of flipped a switch, I guess.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I'm in like higher level things.
Okay.
So obviously, you know, I have this expectation of like needing to do everything to like the best,
Sure.
to my best ability, I
Yeah,
guess.
and that makes complete sense. You know, you're setting a new standard for yourself. I totally get that. Would you say that in that time period, from what you can remember, do you think that there was expectations being put on you by other people, or was it more yourself that was putting those expectations?
I would say a little more myself. Like my parents weren't like super crazy about my grades, as long as they were like if I got a B or you know, the occasional, you know, bad grade,
Sure.
it wouldn't be a big deal.
Okay.
But I think it was always like, that was a strength of mine, and I found a lot of like confidence in it.
Okay.
'Cause people would tell me like, oh, you're so smart, you're so
Sure.
intelligent, you know, and so I always wanted to keep that up, I guess. That was like,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So it seems like maybe you've associated some of your self-worth or your value, like that seems like it's attached to some of your achievements, maybe? Is that accurate, or is that off base?
I would say, yeah, that sounds pretty accurate, honestly.
Okay. Because it sounds like even with your degree, you're doing biochemical engineering, which is obviously a very advanced degree. It sounds like you're doing a lot of extracurriculars still, spending a lot of time with friends. Sounds like you're still kind of putting those same expectations on yourself of always having to be doing something.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that would make sense.
Was there ever a time that anybody made you feel bad for not meeting expectations, or when you did take a break?
I would say, I mean, like I said, my parents were very supportive when it came to, you know, they weren't like super strict on always getting hundreds or anything, but I
Sure.
think like when it comes to what I wanted to major in, it was like, you need to do something that's going to make you a lot of money, and you need to do something that matches your intelligence, I
Okay.
guess. And so it was like, whenever I looked at any other degree, it was almost frowned upon, but then once I was like, oh, maybe I'll do biochemistry, they were like, yeah, do that, that's going to make you a lot of money.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like, just based on everything that you're saying and from what we talked about at our last session, I know last session we covered like confidentiality and all of that, but we also talked about you wanting to come here for burnout and time management.
Yeah.
Would you say in this session now, like, I guess in your own, here, let's make this super simple, because I know I was just saying a lot. So let's make this simple. In your own words, what would you say that you're really here for? Like, what are your goals, I guess?
I guess to, I don't know, like navigate through the stress of being in college and,
Okay.
you know, kind of academic stress. And then, you know, it sounds like from what you said about like self-worth, that's something I never really thought about. And so I guess, you know, I do put a good amount of my worth into my achievements, and, you know, that seems like it's definitely contributing to like burnout and feeling very stressed. And
Sure.
so maybe kind of talking through that a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. So sounds like exploring more about that feeling of
Yeah.
self-worth and where that came from, and then looking at how we can tangibly apply some of that to your schedule, to time management, even identifying where that burnout is coming from. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I think based on what we talked about last time in this session, sounds like a better idea of what you're here and what some of your goals are.
Mhm.
Do you have any questions for me before we kind of start to wrap up today?
I think maybe, do you have any like practical, I guess, do you have any what's the word? Not advice, but like, do you have any suggestions for like how to work on time management? Because I have a really busy week ahead and I'm a little worried about like keeping things, you know, in order.
Absolutely. That's a great question. Have you ever heard of The Common Rule by Justin Earley?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So I don't want to add more homework to your plate, and so this is not an obligation. This is just a tool if you want to use it.
Okay.
But there's a really good book, a really good resource called The Common Rule by Justin Earley. And it talks a lot about what it is and how it was developed, but essentially it's a way of time management. It helps you schedule things that are important, cut things out of your schedule that maybe aren't as urgent as we think that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's a book, there's also just like a graph, like a resource online. And so before you leave today, I can actually print that out for you just so you can have it.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
If you have time, I'd love for you to fill it out with your current schedule. So
Okay.
the next session, we can go over that together and kind of see where your time is actually being spent and what are some areas that bring you joy, like we talked about with your friends, or what are the areas that it seems like it's really draining and causing burnout.
Okay.
So if you have time, I'd love for you to do that. I know you just said that you had a busy week, so that might feel like a lot. But sometimes it's also helpful when you see everything on your schedule and you write out, you know, when is this actually due, right?
Yeah.
What are these things that are actually have deadlines on them?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we think that there's a lot because there's a bunch in our brain,
Yeah.
but once we get it on paper and we just write everything out and we write out the due dates, we realize that maybe there's not as much that we have to do right away as we think that there is.
Okay.
And so maybe start with that. Write out everything that you have to do just so it's out of your brain and on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then go through your deadlines and see, is there anything that you can wait a little bit on? Or are there things that you urgently have to get done?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds super helpful.
Yeah? Okay, awesome. And then like I said, if you have time, fill out that sheet before the next session. If you don't, that's something that we can do together during our next session and talk about that then. Does that feel good to you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. Great. Any other things that you want to talk about before we wrap up, or any notes you want me to make to talk about during our next session?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm really excited, Emily, to talk next session.
Mm-hmm.
I think even just hearing a little bit more about your background, it sounds like there's some good things to explore and talk through.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited and hopeful that we're going to see more of those moments of joy and rest and relief for you, instead of just always feeling that heavy burnout and feeling like you're overwhelmed by everything and that exhaustion. So I think that's all that we have for this session. And then next time that we meet, we'll talk about that time rule,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of the things we talked about today.
Okay, great.
Sound good to
Yeah,
you?
Sounds
Okay,
great.
awesome. Well, hey, have a wonderful day, and let me know if your mind changes on Taylor Swift at all.
All right,
Okay.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.